What's up, guys? I hope you guys are all staying busy right now during this quarantine. I know it's a difficult time for everybody. You're kind of stuck in your house. You can't go to the track. You can't really try many new things. You can practice on the sim, but it's not the real thing. So I'm hoping right now that I can bring you guys some content just to keep your day busy. I hope you guys are still trying to find new avenues to learn during this awkward time of just being locked at home. Today I'm hoping to bring you guys 5 tips of just some things that, during this off season that I thought could really improve everybody's career immediately when they get in the kart. I think during this period of not really being at the track, it would be a good refresher just to get you back in the right mental state before you get back into the karting season once it eventually starts back up. Also, we got a background, as you can see. That's pretty cool. Slowly trying to improve this whole setup. No more brick wall, no more like split brick and blue wall. Hoping it just improves the quality of the videos. Again, slowly making improvements to this channel. Hopefully this just increases the experience for you guys. So yeah, let's get right into the video. So the first of the 5 tips that I'm going to go over is a very obvious thing. It's being prepared before you go to the racetrack. Everybody has their way of how they go about being prepared to go to these races. You know, you watch YouTube videos, you kind of look at track maps, and you do the track walk. But there are some more things that I want to go into about getting prepared for races that a lot of drivers, miss or overlook, and they forget. And this is just stuff that I do that helps me get prepared for races. It just helps put me in the right mindset that when I go there, I'm taking advantage of all the time that I'm using on the racetrack. I'm really putting my best foot forward out the gate. So obviously, you need to watch videos of the tracks that you're going at before you get there. There are some drivers that don't do that, and obviously that would hurt you. Most drivers study videos of the tracks they go to before they actually go to the racetrack itself. But something that a lot of drivers don't do is, you watch the video and you get familiar with the track, but you're not really watching for certain things. So something that I tend to do when I watch these videos is I watch for mistakes that the driver's doing in the video or certain aspects of the track that would make a difference when you're out there. I'm looking for bumps on the track that is upsetting the go-kart. And you can see it in their hands. When, they go through the corner, they hit a bump. Okay, it upsets a go-kart. Now when I'm going to the track, I'm already anticipating that bump to be there. And it just helps you get a step forward in that first session where you're just awkward and kind of just learning the racetrack. Another thing, you look for curbs, you look for acceleration points, and that just helps put you in the right mindset when you go to the track. So when you're watching these videos, try and take a little extra time to focus on the little details of, like, where's the guy hitting the gas? Where are they getting on the brake? How hard are they getting on the brake? Are they turning hard initially on the steering wheel? Is it a track where the track is really greasy and it slides a lot? Are they coasting a lot on the gas? These are all little things that if you pick up on, it can really expedite those first couple of sessions, where you're still learning the track and you're kind of awkward on the racetrack. The flow is not there and you're just not feeling the kart right yet. If you can just get at least a braking spot figured out before you get to the racing track, if you can figure out an acceleration point before you get to the track, if you can figure out just how long you need to roll in between corners or where their cart's positioned on the racetrack in between corners, it really can just help you speed up those first 2 sessions of where you're just still struggling to figure out the racetrack, still struggling to get consistent. If you can just find some consistency early on, it just starts your weekend off on a much better foot. You'll probably be a little bit quicker than most other drivers, gives you some more confidence. It just helps you overall throughout the weekend. Another thing that I do to get prepared, and it's kind of cheesy, but it's visualization. If you can just take some time when you're traveling to these races and just close your eyes and just visualize yourself driving these tracks, it sounds cheesy and it sounds stupid, but it does help. It does put you in a mindset of just understanding the racetrack, understanding the flow of the track, understanding how long it is between these transitions between corners. A lot of the time, the awkwardness that you feel on those first 2 sessions is just because you're not used to the rhythm of the track. You don't know how long you have to wait in between these 2 corners, or you don't know the braking zone, how long it is in the braking zone. If you can go through it in your head and just kind of visualize the track, it just helps in those first 2 sessions get ahead of the game. Obviously when you're visualizing the track, it's not the same thing as driving it, but again, it just helps put you in a better mindset when you get to the track. It just helps you get one step ahead of the game. It always helps to be prepared. It's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared, and it just helps to have just a general idea of what's going on at this racetrack and how the track flows before you get there. Tip number 2 is set goals for practice. Obviously, when you go to these races, your goal for the weekend is to win the race. But a lot of guys don't have goals from Friday to Sunday. They don't set any benchmarks during the week that they try and achieve. Something that I normally do is when I'm going out for the first 2 practices, obviously the goal is to learn the track, but I'm also setting goals throughout these sessions to try and accomplish a certain thing, a measurable goal, something that I know I'm accomplishing and I can feel like I'm progressing just in my driving throughout the week. Normally for my race weekend, I have a same routine of goals that I go through, just stuff that I want to knock off my list of things through the weekend and stuff that'll make me feel more confident. So like, for example, the first 2 sessions, I have just like braking and accelerating are 2 things that I'll focus on in the first 2 sessions. I'll try and figure out my braking zones and all my acceleration points, and just so I create some consistency in those first 2 sessions where I can build off of that for the next one. If I can create a consistent lap time in the first 2 sessions, when I come in and look at data, I can know, okay, all I have to do is go 5 more feet from where I was braking every single lap the next time, or accelerate just a few feet after where I was accelerating the previous session. It just helps you get a baseline instead of going out there and just driving and just trying to figure out the track and consistently making different mistakes. If you consistently make the same mistakes, it's better because you can learn off those mistakes. Where if you're making different mistakes every lap, if you go into the same corner and one lap you overdrive it and the next lap you underdrive it, you're not creating a consistent benchmark that you can go off of as a driver. You're always going to feel unstable. If you just create a goal of like, I'm going to accomplish getting my braking zones down, I'm going to accomplish getting my acceleration points down, it really can help build through the rest of the weekend. And that goes on to chassis setup or other things throughout the weekend. When we change gear, instead of just going out there and just trying to feel if the cart feels good, you want to make a goal and accomplish something as like, my goal would be, what did that do to the cart? What did that do to the engine? How did it feel at this time of day? Accomplish a goal of learning exactly what it does so you can bring some good feedback back to your mechanic. You want to be able to provide solid feedback to him. And if you're just out there driving to see if it feels good, you're not really learning anything and you're not accomplishing a goal. So before you go out for each session, focus on setting a goal for that session. Make sure that you're actually out there accomplishing something. Just like your goal is for the weekend, you're trying to accomplish winning the race. Your goal for practice should be, I'm going to accomplish this certain thing. Not necessarily always just trying to be the fastest. Try and focus on maybe one session, it's passing. Maybe your goal for that session is to figure out the passing zones of the racetrack. Maybe for another session, it's driving on old rubber. You want to see what the cart's like and really focus on figuring it out, what it's like driving when the tires are really worn out, or when it's like driving on low tire pressure. There's all these different things you can really set as goals, and would help if you just really focused in and honed in on those things so that when you come back to the tent, you can communicate it better and you feel like you're actually accomplishing things throughout the week. It really helps as a driver if you start setting goals and actually achieving those goals as you go throughout the weekend. Tip number 3 is kind of an obvious one, but it's make mental notes throughout the weekend. A lot of the time, you have the basic mental notes of like, this is a corner I'm stronger in, or this is a corner I'm slower in. And, obviously the other one is like knowing your competition, and you're making notes about where they're faster, where they're slower, what tire pressure they're on. You're making these notes, and those are the obvious ones. But what you really want to focus on is track condition and how the cart's feeling and how the track's changing throughout the day and how the cart's changing throughout the day. If you're making these mental notes Thursday, Friday, Saturday of how the track's changing and evolving throughout the day, when you go out there for your final on Sunday and your mechanic is trying to make this change, you can either advise him to make the change or tell him not to, because you know that the track does a certain thing at a certain time. So for example, let's say you go out for the pre-final and you have an oversteer. But recently throughout the weekend, you figured out that as the race goes on, you lose front grip. Most people, if you come in and say in the pre-final, okay, I have an oversteer, they would take front grip away from the cart to help compensate for that problem. But if you're making mental notes throughout the week of how the track's adapting, you'll know that come 4 or 5 o'clock, you lose front grip and the cart will kind of settle itself out. So there's times where you should be making these changes and you shouldn't. So if you can kind of anticipate that because you're making these mental notes throughout the weekend, it'll definitely help you just be ahead of the game and be ahead of a lot of other drivers that don't do that. You want to be a driver that's thinking about the next session and really thinking further ahead than just their last session. A lot of drivers get caught up on the previous session and don't really look ahead to what did the track do yesterday around this time? How did the cart handle around this time? You want to be making these notes just so that when you're making setup changes in the future, you kind of have some more insight on what the track is going to do and how it's going to respond to your changes. Tip number 4 is work with your teammates. This is something I'm guilty of as much as anybody else. You focus too much on beating your teammate and it ends up slowing you down. When drivers work together, not just on track but off track, almost 100% of the time, both drivers will end up going faster. When you create an environment where both drivers are engaged in trying to help each other out, you can point out certain things that one driver is doing on the track or something that you see on their go-kart that they necessarily didn't see, and they can do that for you. When both drivers work together, there's this mutual growth and it helps both drivers every single time. Just like the last tip of making notes, having another driver that you're communicating with gives you an ability to make more notes throughout the weekend, to find out different setups faster than you normally would. When you focus too much on trying to beat your teammate, you end up missing things that they're saying or missing things that they're doing just because they might not be as fast as you. There's a lot of times where, even though they're not as quick as you, they can tell you some very vital information that will help you through the weekend. And even if you're trying to be selfish and trying not to show them your secrets, they're probably doing the same thing. So if you can create an environment where both drivers mutually want to share information, are helping each other, and are encouraging each other, and are really pushing each other to get better, it will always be better. You will always go faster from it. It's something that a lot of drivers do. I've done before. And once you get over that hump of putting your pride aside and not just focusing on what you're doing, but trying to focus on how you can help everybody else and how you can help everybody else to help you, you always will go faster. You just need to put your pride on the shelf and realize that when you help other people, they can majority of the time help you too. And it ends up benefiting both parties. Another thing that drivers need to do is always look at the data. I've done this a lot. When you're the fastest, you sometimes overlook the fact that other drivers might be faster in certain areas. Even if you're faster than them in 90% of the track and they've got you beat in one corner, learning what they're doing in that one corner can help you. If you can pick up half a tenth, that's a ton of time that you can learn. Even if they're 3-4 tenths off of you, but they're driving one corner better than you, it was completely worth your time to look at the data. Every session, you need to look at data with your teammates and discuss what their feelings were about the track. Run ideas by them. You guys are the only ones on the racetrack together. You guys are the only ones that actually get to feel what's going on. Even running ideas by mechanics are good, but they're not the ones driving. They're not the ones that actually are out there feeling what's going on. When you're talking to the drivers, you're creating just this environment where people are willing to share information, are wanting to share information, and it will always make you faster. Tip number 5. This is the biggest and most important tip that I'll say today. It is to remember the basics of racing. So many drivers get in the habit of driving the same way all the time, and it creates so many issues. Every time you go out on the racetrack, the track changes, and you need to remember the basics of karting when it changes. A lot of drivers will go out for a session, and they'll go into the braking zone, and they'll miss the apex, or they'll slide through the center of the corner because they got on the gas too early, and they'll just keep doing that over and over and over and over again. And in reality, all it takes is one lap for you to remember the basics of karting that say, if you get on the gas and the back slides, you need to get on the gas later. Or if you go into the corner and you slide through the center of the corner, you need to brake earlier. I can't tell you how many times I've succeeded in races and done really well just because majority of the drivers forgot the basics. Forgot that when you go in the corner and the cart starts to slide, don't get on the gas at the same spot you were the last session. Get on it later. The track's always changing. When you get on the track, it will never be the same ever as it was the session before. So if you can just remember something as simple as just the basics of karting and just focus on that when you're on the track, I can guarantee that you will see improvements in your driving. There are so many times where I'm on track and I know I'm doing something consistently wrong every time. And then it clicks with me. Remember the basics of karting. If I'm apexing too early in a certain corner, I remember the basics of karting, turn in later. It sounds so silly and it sounds so stupid to say that, but there's so many times that I've seen drivers that will consistently turn in early or consistently blow the braking zones that it is amazing how many people just forget the basics of karting. Again, the reason I learned this is because I did it so many times and realized that every time when I had my mechanic yell at me for something so simple, I had to start realizing it when I was driving. It's something very simple, but everybody forgets it. You get in the zone where you start to work off a feeling and you think you're right mentally because the cart might not be handling right, or it might be doing something different, so you're trying to compensate for it. But in the end, the racing line is always the racing line, and if you can get as close as you can to it, it's always going to be better. And I get it, there are very few times that pushing the cart harder and sliding it through a corner might be a little faster, but in the long run it's always slower, and it is always better to try to get back on the racing line and drive correctly, just to see if you are actually losing time, or if it's just you driving and forgetting the basics of karting. Again, a very simple concept, but is often overlooked by everybody. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope this helped you guys. This is a video that I really wanted to do because these are some tips that I feel could really help a lot of people, and I explain to a lot of people all the time. Make sure to like and subscribe to the video. Comment any ideas you have. I read a lot of your comments on the last video. I'm trying to work some of those in, trying to do some videos about that as well. Make sure to follow me on my Instagram and my Facebook. Those are the two sites that I'm the most active on. And if you want to DM me through there as well, I respond through both of those quite frequently. Also, during this quarantine time, I know that everybody is pretty bored. If you are looking for any coaching advice, I do offer that service. So please feel free to message me if you do want some personalized online coaching. I'm more than happy to do that with you guys. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm really hoping to post some more videos now that I have a ton of free time. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you guys are staying quarantined. Make sure to wash your hands, all that stuff. It's a weird time we're in right now, but we're all going to get through it. I'll see you guys next time.